Yeah, so really just going to focus on some of the best practices. Um, so in general, in respect to model box, compiling and running. So some of the things here, and you've seen basically both me and Rooney and Bill also take advantage of some of these things as far as you can use top and SQ to verify the node is not being used. Top is also the number of Python processes being used, which is particularly useful. And as long as people are using the Slurm integration, you'll see a job either running or in the batch for SQ. Uh, Highly recommend using Slurm. Um, let's see here. Basically, you make taking advantage of flags for logging tools, as well as just straight out logging tools, such as the RCW toolkit, which was like especially developed and maintained for ANL. SN Tilesat is a great way to check the the node's utility, use practices that optimize performance on the RDU. And as Kobe has showed you, using tools like SambaNova can give you an in-depth look at performances and help you understand how you're backspying this hardware to best treat your models. Um, Something I kind of want to add here as you guys start to work on the bare metal systems, as you develop your own scripts or run your own Python models without the scripts, you can refer to a lot of the practices and standards that are done in our wrapper scripts as a great clue as how robust your script is and ways you can improve it. If you actually go through any of the model boxes or non-model box scripts, you'll notice that they call the appropriate environment before the script is actually executing the model. So you can use that as a great hint and guide to reference as you work on the stuff yourself. Here, we actually show where a great way for you to be able to actually find and verify these environments. You can go to op/semaphore/apps directory, use a find command, and it will print out all the environments for each one of the models that's already present. So if you're doing a smaller model, such as logret or Linit, you can grab it from the starter places. If you are using a privately developed model from ANO, you can grab that environment from there, NLT, NLP, and images. And then you can use your source command to actually just activate that environment from there. No script actually needed, but make sure that you have the appropriate libraries and calls to be able to actually use and work with these models without any issues. Another common practice that you might notice, like what I was doing, is I took advantage of Tmux. Screen is another really great tool to basically set up a revisable workspace, have multiple screens to different layers. That way you can be able to do a higher level of development, be able to use multiple screens. As well, if your work is somehow interrupted, you can detach from that screen and return to it as needed. I know it just greatly increased my productivity, and I've been using it since I started. Um, you can do all this work in your home directory. There is a limited space there, and so it's generally recommended to work in data scratch, as there will be more memory storage for you to do more robust modeling, testing, and that you compile your artifacts in the data/ANL/results. This doesn't have to be done, but this is recommended to do. Um, to make sure that your model architectures are running, uh, verifying that you have your inputs and the model architecture are matching and what requires of you, is normally 80% of the error or 80% of where you're going to spend a lot of focus, time, and attention, and just verify that those are being done correctly. Do, do, do. Right. Here are some specific things that the better maximize compiling your own paths on the architecture. One is basically using a BF16 format in your code when possible. This basically maximizes the operations ability to perform on the RDU, and see the related documentation for why that's the case. Checkpoints should definitely be used as BF16. You can use FP32 available in SambaFlow 1.18. Right now, A&O systems are on 117, and it's highly recommended to use a BS16 format, particularly for checkpoints. Uh, Once you've basically gone through all the trouble of actually getting your data to a format that's most usable to an NLP model, being able to save it in an applicable place, highly recommend it. Um, some of the flags that are also recommended, flags or export variables that are recommended, such as log level error. Like for example, when Varuni was just showing her script, we got a lot out of the output file, which can be incredibly useful for debugging and troubleshooting. But it cannot, as we kind of noticed, it can also seem like to get in the way. By adding this flag, you can essentially reduce the warnings and have the output reserved just for the our expected output elements, as well as any errors to the model compiling, to help better focus troubleshooting. Uh, Exporting the number of threads here allows for parallelization, very, very powerful and useful feature. But validating that essentially the model compile and run phase are using the same definition of the model. And looking for as we discussed yesterday during the tracing phase, using the RDUs, basically mismatch, missing tensors can all be a big cause for concern, errors, or troubleshooting ways to either improve performance or to fix a compiling that's not available or working. General, Generally speaking, you only have to recompile if you have you've changed the definition of the model or the input shape of the path is required to be different. Other than that, you can use paths again, and use those mappings without having to recompile. Unsupported operators implemented using can basically be re-implemented, such as a common operator in Torch is the torch.repeat, can be replaced by tensor copy and then expand it, and have a re-implement version in SambaNova that can be appropriately used. Unsupport loss functions or functions that have not been developed for use and work on RDUs can use standard CPUs. Um, can slow down the performance. As it's been mentioned before, NLP models need to use the optimizer Atom W, not Atom. Uh, in some cases, to improve performance, you can look at torch.pow and the model definition to replace that by an input scale. Uh, and during the sample loader, you can drop um, certain sets to be able to avoid partial batches. This is important. And having the correct number of arguments is key for being able to use the loader and be able to do parallel loading. Additional tips, always use Slurm as it helps schedule and orchestrate jobs. When using Slurm, pass this command as this to access and use the RDUs. Always pass your CPUs per task. Export the OMP number of threads to ensure that the optimal use of Slurm is happening during the scripts. If you don't know how many RDUs that you need for model testing and development, you can take advantage of the Slurm feeder. Uh, so an RDU will basically always be considered one to Slurm, unless you're taking advantage of data parallel, uh, a model parallel, or using spatial mapping. And at that point, the batches can be slightly configured slightly different. Oh, we will keep going. Oh, to further aff- assi- affiliate aff- to further assist in Python tools, using external tools such as PDP and PySpy allows you to scope the both monitor the how the Python operations will be performed without execution. And so you can have both an in-depth knowledge of how the your code is actually running on the hardware and where it's running into potential problems before you've even run or compiled it. So this is a phenomenal tool, particularly when you're testing and developing models ahead of the curve. To do as One of the most important flags that you can set when using data parallel is this WS flag, allowing for multiple RDUs to be used in parallel for a number of workers. Without this you won't be able to take advantage of that. But once set, it will use as many RDUs as is available to it. Taking advantage of some of these modern tools and develop, you can sweep for the optimal batch size in respect to the your tensor mapping to determine optimization speeds and ways to improve model's performance for your particular use case. And then you can take advantage of a grad accumulation flag to basically break up that batch size into smaller batches and then tr almost treat it as if it's a larger batch size still. Um, Sweep on the number of workers to determine the sweet spot of where you want to use the host CPU versus taking advantage of RDUs. As Kobe's like kind of showcase in his in-depth tool with SambaTune, this is an excellent tool that can be used to do these sweepings and make effective decisions on how to improve things. The Samba CCL PCIe transport equals one, allows for data parallel use on one host. So when not using multiple nodes and still want to take advantage of data parallel, this is the file that will allow that for yourself. Mm. If there's a significant host component, essentially meaning that you are not taking advantage of the RDUs to the degree that you would like where you ideally would like to be. You can sweep the number of optimum threads to see if there's ways that you can improve that. And lastly, you can use a SF RNT tile affinity to debug this issue related to jitters on your run. Right now, there's only one support script that actually takes advantage of JIT and real-time compile. If anyone has any questions related to that, I'm happy to go in a lot more depth in respect to it. Uh, and this basically is related back to that JIT command and the mappings of it. Some of the additional flags that you can use to transfer time between the host and RDU and look for improvement opportunities. You can double check that the CPUs are performing at the level of expectation. Um, Environment changes that you can make. Mhm. And lastly, as far as just the practice of checking your hardware environment, um, like for example, in the earlier demonstration, it appears that There was a node that was busy that I was not aware of, hence why my job was pending during that time. Some unfortunate miscommunication of time and scheduling. If I'd basically took the time to check and verify that before running, I wouldn't have had issues. So it's a great practice to do, and that can be done with SNFA admin. You can use SN Tilestat. You can use top and Slurm to all verify those things. Using SNF88M slash L inventory. This gives a presentation of the showing the nodes all online. You can also use a grep -v online to see if any nodes are not online. These are some of the things that you might see if you also take advantage of SNF ADM fault and error. Faults are generally okay, and basically need to persist for a certain amount of time, like over 24 hours, persistently before they're even a cause for concern. Errors are much more important, much more prevalent. Basically, models can run with a degraded nature. It's not recommended, and generally you will have performance problems with the system. At that point, letting either a system administrator or a SambaNova CE know that so that they can do immediate troubleshooting to fix that is is the best course of action. Another way you can basically check the health of the node as well as the node information is doing something like sn config, so node all. Going back to talking about Slurm feeder, um, the computational graphs execute on the RDs are stored in paths, which are especially specify a number of required resources. Uh, do, do, do. Basically, so there is a SambaNova library that allows you to read this resource requirement. I did not have time to have it in this presentation, unfortunately. I will do my best to provide that a little bit later on. Slurm feeder is an example. A Slurm job submits code in Python, allowing to basically find the best number of resources that will be required and then managed by Slurm. Um, and then from there, the Slurm feeder can be used to construct a batch script that will specify the necessary resources needed to submit the job. Um, and just as I noted earlier, as far as if I basically take advantage of something like Slurm feeder and notice that I asked basically for more resources that were available when my job was in a pending state, I could have basically used this to actually schedule something later on. And yeah, just an in-depth look at some of the arguments and what it will look like for usage. So thank you for everyone's time. If there's any questions that me or someone else can help with, I'd be happy to answer it, either through chat or through.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, please post your questions or unmute yourself if you have any, or if you are having any issues later when you try on the system, always email help@alcf.anl.gov. And if none of them have any questions, I think we can wrap up with our 2-day SambaNova workshop session. First of all, thank you for all of you who are for attending, and then shout out to all the speakers, especially from the SambaNova folks, and also the slides will be, so whatever the slides were presented will be posted on the same event page. And once the recordings are available, it will be published on the ALCF YouTube channel, as well as you will receive an email with the links. So yeah, please do again, try when at your leisure, try to run the models. Please come up with any questions or concerns if you have. But yeah, if not any, I think we can wrap up this.
Varuni, Ram has a question.
You mentioned that we should not run from the repo, but from our home repo. Could you? Oh, so all I said is, so like this, the scripts that are present in /data scripts, they are a common directory where you would not have both the write privileges. So it will be taking some relative path where your sometimes where your scripts might be trying to write into some place where you don't have access, and that's pretty much a repo that's maintained by the root users. So all I said is don't initiate any scripts from there. Copy the scripts onto your home directory or onto your Scratch directory path, and then try to issue your commands or your script from there. So that's pretty much what I would request. And if that's not clear, please unmute yourself. I am not sure what ANL repo you're meaning. But this was pretty much with respect to the /data scripts that I was referring to earlier. And you would not have the access to the SambaFlow apps as well, at least the right permission. So if you're planning to incorporate a new custom code where you want to write your own models, then of course you want to make a copy of it onto your home directory or any other directory of your choice where you have access, and then you probably want to change it according to your requirement, and then issue the scripts based on those paths. So that's what I had to say about the running from a particular path.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you so much for answering.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, please try out the window option. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much for the wonderful session. Really got to know high level how to run the models. I actually requested for the AI testbed quite late. So is there a timeline that I can look for to get the access to run these scripts?
Do you have an ALCF account already?
I have submitted the request.
So if it is if you do not have an ALCF account yet, then it would take at least a couple of weeks before you could get access to it. And then you will be able to log on to the system.
Got it. But I think this would be available only for a week or so, right? The access.
Yeah, I mean, just email us saying you got the access late. So probably your account will be active for a while after that.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, please use the ALCF help desk to, reach out if you have any questions.
Yeah. Hey, Varuni. Yeah, I have a follow-up question on that. Like you mentioned that if you don't have an ALCF account, then it can take up to 2 weeks. I unfortunately also, submitted the request late, but I do have an ALCF account. So do you have an idea on how long that could take?
So if you already have an ALCF account, joining the project is good enough.
Yeah, maybe I can add this. So Ramsha, did you send a request to join the AI Testbed training project?
Yes, I did.
Okay, then it should be sooner, so you'll be able to join the project under
Okay, great.
side of
Thank
the
you.
system.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, hope you can get your access soon and you can try the different models there. So yeah, anyone else have any questions?
I had a parting comment in general.
Sure.
I think like we covered a lot of topics here, but one thing I would like to point out that each hardware system is different and they have their own benefits as well as shortcomings. What I have seen SN30 RDU being helpful for, as we talked in the spec, it has huge memory associated with it, 1 terabyte per chip. So if you are running some models on other systems where you are running into out of memory issue, which could be very long sequence transformer models or very high image resolution vision models, those are good candidates to provide an alternate implementation on SN30 RDU. And that value proposition is something, if you have, then you will find much better benefit trying to run it on RDU compared to any other system. So you should keep looking when using SN30 RDUs, your focus probably should be looking at how I can improve on my model accuracy using bigger and better memory occupancy models. That's just one feedback item that good could be could provide good use cases for researchers.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Darshan, for chipping in. I know some of the participants did have questions or comment regarding that. And yeah, just to add on to what Darshan said, especially when you compare system, it just cannot be which is faster or not. There can also be different dimensions to it. For example, you want to have a larger memory footprint and you're not and you don't want to model parallel is quite an issue, especially if you have very large images or larger sequence length and very large models. So when they don't and fit and if they don't scale well, using SambaNova in its play, like using it as an alternative is a great thing to do. And also, we have had very successful science cases where we have been able to adapt the code, which had some shortcomings on the GPU, especially for large image size or large sequence length, as Darshan was pointing to. And then we've had successful science results on these systems. I know Darshan did point out to one of the benchmarking paper that we had. So that's where some of the information and some of the use cases you can use or you can follow it. That's pretty useful information as well. Just to add on to what Darshan had already mentioned. Yes, it's the terabyte that Darshan was talking about. Yeah, I hope everyone did have something good to take away from the entire 2-day workshop sessions. Again, the slides will be available for you to take a look at a later time. Please go through. You can also try accessing the systems for a while and try out, and please provide your feedback as well as any questions or comments to us. And thanks once again for joining us and making this workshop a success. Thank you.